Good morning. You are listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the Internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RyleAuctions.com as they are the host of this program. Additionally, this show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country. We've got a lot of topics today. Help us out. We've got some good people calling in. Number one, radio show mission statement: to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. Want to start off on a recurring theme, and that's the 14,000 government surplus properties. We're getting into politics today. Obviously, the Republican National Convention was on last night, and the Democratic National Convention will be soon. I'm hoping that these 14,000 government surplus properties won't be caught up in politics, that they will be sold for the benefit of the American taxpayer, that these properties will be taken off the basic burden of us taxpayers who pay these enormous holding costs. I've talked to you before about August 6th. There was a Miami congressional hearing that I went down, and Tommy Rowell, the CEO of Rowell Auctions, went down. And we actually heard Congressman Micah and Congressman Denham talk about the 14,000 government surplus properties. It was in a courthouse, a Miami courthouse that had been vacant for 5 or 6 years at the cost of $1.2 million each year in holding cost. And even with those holding costs, when you were in the courthouse, you could smell mildew, unfortunately. And that's what happens when buildings are not maintained. When they're abandoned, no matter what you do to them, it just costs a lot of money, and it's not good business. When we were down there, we were asked to see if we would get some letters written about the fact that these government surplus properties should be sold, that they are a big burden to the American taxpayer, that the area deteriorates when you talk about a property that has been abandoned. You get more crime, you get more vagrants, the area goes down as far as businesses, so local businesses don't get as much income, not only from the people going into a working building compared to an abandoned building, but also because of vagrants and crime, the area goes down. And so we worked hard and sought out some really big VIPs that would they write a letter that would go into that August 6th congressional hearing in support of the fact that these properties need to be signed. And we've got a call, but I'll be talking about it a little bit more. It's pretty interesting, and I will be very happy to talk to you about that. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doug. Bob Pliska.
Hey, Bob. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Well, fine. I haven't talked to you in a while, and it's always great. You are a wonderful guest on this program, and I always want to know about the Detroit area and what's happening up there. But first of all, tell us who you are again, what you do, and tell me about your fine company.
Name is Bob Pliska. I'm with Sperry Van Ness. I'm pretty much working on the Michigan operations. We buy, sell, lease, finance, and auction commercial real estate properties, both for owner, user, and investment purposes.
You are a VIP in that company. How long you been with Sperry Van Ness?
Been about 7 years now.
Well, you've done a fantastic job, and I see your success. Every once in a while I see this $30 million building and this $15 million building, and that you are speaking at a national conference. I appreciate our friendship. But tell me about the really wonderful story of the Detroit area, which really went downhill for a few years, and I don't think anyone thought it was going to come back so quickly. But let me not give away the story. Tell me what's happening.
Well, the Detroit market, as you know, in 2008, 9, and 10 was experiencing significant difficulties because of the auto industry, and as you know, we got significant publicity with that, with General Motors and Chrysler bankruptcy situations, and basically impacted most of the suppliers in the industrial market, and primarily all the market, whether you're office, retail, industrial, whatever. And from that, it has significantly turned around, as usually it does, but this time around was probably the hardest hit that I've ever seen in the last 30, 40 years that I've been working the market here. And from that,
since you were 5, right?
Yeah, whatever, whatever that is. It seems forever.
I hear you.
But it's amazing how time flies, you know.
Yes.
He says, how old am I? I says, oh, jeez. How did that happen?
It's only a number. It's only a number.
Right. But anyway, since then, we've begun tremendous positive publicity. The auto industry has significantly turned around. I mean, we're getting significant reports, for example, like in Bloomberg showed that Michigan is number 2 in the state of economic health. Tech America showed us as number 1 in tech job growth. Newsweek showed us as number 1 in job creation potential. So life has got much better, in addition to our sports teams, which have turned around. Hopefully we're having a good, successful year with the Lions and the Tigers and the Red Wings again.
It's been amazing. It's like everybody is jumping on board the Michigan bandwagon and doing great. I heard something today that Michigan is like off the wall. I was talking to another real estate broker. He is so busy. This is very, very good news, and I'm very happy for you. I know that you and I, as real estate professionals, we need to make money and make a living, whether it's a good market or a bad market. But it's extremely exciting when you see a bad market or challenged market, let's say, go up the ladder and really do well. So kudos to you and your cohorts and the other businesses that have done well. Tell me a little bit about the auto industry and how is that doing, and how does that affect the entire Michigan economy?
Well, the auto industry is obviously the prime mover of Detroit, although Michigan does have other major industries which keep it going, like agriculture and the travel industry, in addition to alternative energy and things like that. But the auto industry obviously is the prime mover, and with that, if GM, Chrysler, and Ford are doing well, it does have an impact, because it just spreads out with not only the immediate suppliers in the industrial area, but also the impact that if more people are working and doing well and so forth, they can buy more, which impacts the retail market. And the office market, obviously, spins off from that. So it's all a big generator, that auto industry, which just keeps this area continuing to go forward.
How has the state? I hate to get into politics, but how is the state doing as far as money and has that? I know you and I worked together a few years ago, and the state was having budget problems, just like the world is really. The world, the family budget, everybody's budget is taking a hit lately. But how's the state of Michigan doing?
The state of Michigan is doing extremely well. We've brought in a governor, or actually, obviously voted in a governor,
right,
that who's a CPA by background and a financial or venture capitalist background, And with that background and with his ability to take budgets and so forth, has really turned a negative situation to a very positive situation where actually now Michigan has a surplus of funds, which
Wow.
Previously in the last, years before that, it was negative, and as you indicated, we were having budget deficits, we were selling properties, and
Yep.
as you know, and the auction that you and I worked on, which was like a $30 million auction, I mean, that was there to bring back dollars to the state coffers, which they sorely needed.
They sorely needed. Tell us about that. And again, just as a segue, I was with Lewis Fisher yesterday, and he, of course, worked with us on that auction, did a great job. But tell us a little bit about that auction. And it was very unique, very challenging, and is a great introduction to my topic of government surplus properties and the need to sell. So go to it.
Well, that was an interesting auction because it was 414 acres, which the state of Michigan owned in a very upscale area, Northville, Michigan. And with that, it was on that property was a psychiatric hospital in which, due to changes in the way the industry was going and how the state was funding that type of operation, they decided to close that operation. So he had 414 acres of property in an area that was not doing anything, and the state, after 4 times trying to sell it the normal way of putting it on the market and trying to close on it, they failed 4 times. So we came along and said that an auction may be a way to get rid of this property, and as a result, we were able to do that by doing an auction. We competed against several other auction firms, and were able to win the assignment, and was able to generate a sale of $30 million to the state of Michigan. That took like $500,000 of annual maintenance and security costs that they had to pay in order to keep that property going off the books. It provided construction and permanent jobs to the individuals that company that bought it, and put the property back on the tax rolls.
Well, I want to focus on that $500,000 that you talked about. People in the business kind of know how much it cost for holding costs, and I say kind of because many properties, especially in the government, spend enormous amount of money maintaining properties that have been abandoned, that have been deemed surplus, and we as taxpayers don't know about it. And so tell me, $500,000, and how long was this property abandoned?
It was abandoned about 3 years prior to the time that we came along and tried to auction it. So as a result, you had $500,000 of security costs and maintenance costs. That's $1.5 million that just was went up in smoke.
Wasted. Yeah, and of course, you and I have talked about the 14,000 government surplus properties. We'll get into that a little bit later, but imagine 500,000. This is for a state, and again, a very challenging property. But $500,000 it cost each year. The state of Michigan taxpayers were paying for that, probably didn't know about it. And, they knew it was abandoned. They knew that it hurt the area values because 414 acres is a big chunk of land. Tell us how an auction firm and a real estate broker work together, because there was a whole bunch of challenges on that property, and it's going to be very close to some of the government surplus properties, the 14,000. I think the government thinks that, it's not picture-perfect property, so maybe we need to fix it all up before we sell it, and that costs a whole bunch of money. That doesn't make sense. So tell us some of the issues that we had on that property.
Well, there were quite a few issues.
Yep.
It was kind of like a training of what other issue can you...
A training film, yes.
Walk into, in the sense of you had the environmental issues, you had probably asbestos issues regarding the various buildings. There were like 20-some buildings on the property.
How big was the tallest building? Was that 10 stories, something like that?
That was about a 10-story
Okay.
building, and
had asbestos all in it, Going to cost a lot to get that out, so that affected the price. I understand that.
So it impacted the price. In addition, there were tunnels on the property. There were actually an oil well on the property. There was a dumping site on the property. I mean, then you had various other environmental issues of maintaining the number of trees on the property if you decided to develop it.
Yeah.
In addition to a state firing range at one end of the property, which you had to somehow work so you were able to eventually sell the property, and that wouldn't become an issue.
Hard to put a 3-bedroom house right next to the firing range, right?
That's for sure,
And all of these things, I guess my point is that I know the auction business, but the commercial real estate business. The environmental landscape. You worked hard and in many, many hours trying to get all that information for the buyers, because in an auction situation, it's quick. Everybody's on the same playing field, which is very, very good. But you go to an auction to make sure there's a date that the auction's going to be held, that everybody knows that it's the same amount of deposit, the same closing period. But your due diligence really has to be done prior to bidding compared to a regular sale, right?
Yes, and that was the issue, or I would say that I was involved with substantially, because the property was in a fairly well-located area of the metropolitan Detroit area.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, you had to provide the information as to what the market is, where it is, how it stands in the market, in addition to all the issues that we just previously kind of alluded to, in the sense of the issues that somebody that buying it would have to kind of resolve regarding the environmental, actually the carrying costs of what those would be. They
Mm-hmm.
would want to know that too, and it was determining all that information that had to go into a package that was extremely well detailed, and so when somebody goes to the actual, arrives at the actual auction, as it is taking place, they have all that information in back of them, so they know what the property is all about, where it stands in the market, and what it is.
This was 5 or 6 years ago, and so internet wasn't full scale at that time, and so I think what we did is we sold the due diligence, or what we call property information, because a buyer has to do their own due diligence. We can just help them, we can assist them, we can give them property information to the best of our knowledge, but they need to do their own due diligence. But I'm going to say, when you stacked all those papers together, when you stacked all the environmental and the legal and the leases and the information about the property, you were looking at 6, 7, heck, maybe 8 inches of paper. And so I think we sold that as a package, and I don't know if it cost $150 or whatever. And then we actually scanned all of those papers and put them on a CD or 2 CDs, which was kind of new at that time, and so I think we sold that for $50 or something. But a lot of information to go over, and it was a difficult property because of all the issues, which gets us a little bit into this 14,000 government surplus properties. If the one that you and I did helped the budget by bringing in 30 million plus, was it 30 or 31? I can't remember. It was.
I think the price was like $31.5 million.
31 and a half. Yeah. Okay.
Obviously, you have expenses off of that.
Yes.
So you're ending maybe with a net of $30 million.
Okay. Okay. You are a CPA, obviously. I'm looking at your title here, and very important in your line of business. But with all of these properties, with 14,000, and they're not going to be all $30 million properties, but some of them are actually bigger. They're more expensive. They're more valuable. Can you imagine if you're the federal government and have all these properties, and just one of them, like the state of Michigan property, cost $500,000 a year to maintain, and you times that by hundreds and thousands of properties. Again, people don't know about this. It is a terrible burden for the American taxpayer. And we need to push Congress, which should be a win-win situation for both sides of the aisle, the president. Let's get rid of properties that are not being used, that are abandoned, that are hurting the area, and let's sell them, bring it back into a budget so we can help the deficit, and then bring in a private sector person that is going to basically, it's like a community development grant, because all of a sudden you've got a new person in there going to hire new employees, going to buy goods and services. It's going to affect all the other businesses, because now you got an ongoing business. You've got more traffic. You've got good stuff. What would it do, Bob, if we could do this to 14,000 government surplus properties across the country?
It would be a tremendous help to, obviously, the budget and helping the taxpayer, et cetera, that they understand that we are taking care of what we should be as a government taking care of us, in the sense of not spending and overspending on things or wasting dollars, like what has happened in many instances. All these properties that are just sitting there where they could be turned around and put to good use.
One property, state of Michigan, costs $500,000 each year to maintain, and still it devalues the area. Bob, if it's possible, I've got like a couple minutes of ads. I want to get on to the fact that you and I kind of made a little bit of history by sending letters into the government that's going to be used as help to push both sides of the aisle, both the House and the Senate, to move on selling these 14,000 government surplus properties. Do you have a couple minutes that we can have some ads and then bring you back on?
Sure. I'll be happy to do so.
Good. Just hold on. Again, we're talking to Bob Pliska. He is owner and managing director of Sperry Van Ness in Birmingham, Michigan, right outside Detroit. A great friend and a true professional. Let's go for some ads, a quick break, and then we'll be right back. We're back. Listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I have on the line Robert Pliska. He is the owner and managing director of Sperry Van Ness in Birmingham, Michigan. Sperry Van Ness Property Investment Advisors. I was talking. Are you still with us, Bob?
Still here, Doug.
Okay, good. We're talking about the 14,000 government surplus properties, and as I stated earlier before Bob came came on, there was a congressional hearing at Miami at a courthouse that had been unused for 5 years, cost $1.2 million per year, which totals $6 million, folks, that went up in smoke. And so there was a congressional hearing, and they were talking about these 14,000 government surplus properties, and I was privileged to actually go down there and interview Congressman Micah down there for the radio show, have the radio show right in the courtroom, which was pretty neat. And anyway, I was asked after the congressional hearing, would I be willing to write a letter in support of the 14,000 government surplus properties to be sold to help the American taxpayer, and what it does when you don't sell these properties and what cost to the American taxpayer. And so I asked, okay, I'll send a letter, but would you like other real estate VIPs to send a letter? And they said, boy, that'd be great. And so I asked Bob Pliska, and folks, you've got to listen to this letter. I'm going to read the entire thing because it is extremely good. It's to Congressman Micah. It's on Sperry Van Ness letterhead, Property Investment Advisors, a great firm. Congressman Micah, August 15th, 2012, regarding congressional hearing titled Subcommittee on Economic Development, Public Buildings, and Emergency Management Field Hearing. Dear Congressman Micah, I'm sending this testimony at the request of Douglas Dennison, National Sales Coordinator of Rowell Auctions, Inc., who was at the hearing held in Miami, Florida. He has kept me informed through correspondence and his work as the host of the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. I support your efforts and those of Congressman Denham and others to sell what has grown to be over 14,000 government surplus real estate properties throughout the United States. These unsold real estate assets are an enormous burden to the American taxpayer. If properties were sold, proceeds of these properties could go to help reduce a rising national deficit, but most importantly, it would save billions of dollars in holding cost to the American taxpayer. To efficiently dispose of these properties, I encourage you to support the use of private sector real estate professionals, such as auction firms and real estate agencies, to market and sell these properties. The real estate industry has a framework with the best knowledge and proficiency to sell these properties. As an added benefit, the federal government would not need more government employees who will expand our tax obligations and our debt. Real estate firms such as Sperry Van Ness, who focus their real estate practice on real estate services to government agencies, will outperform public sector agencies because the private sector is known to be results-oriented, driven, and highly motivated. For example, we performed an auction in the state of Michigan where we sold a 414-acre surplus property for the state of Michigan for $31.5 million, giving substantial dollars back to the state, putting the property back on the tax roll, relieving the state of $500,000 per year in annual maintenance and security costs, provided the potential creation of 8,500 construction and permanent jobs into the Michigan economy. Currently, for example, a large health care facility is being built by the University of Michigan on the site, providing great benefit to the local community. Our government-held properties are not just costly to maintain, but they thwart revitalization of our communities. It is a disservice for the government to hinder rebuilding our communities by holding abandoned properties that result in restricting community betterment. However, on top of all of this, it is a tremendous cost to our citizens amongst a whole lot of waste. If you have any questions, please feel free to call. Sincerely, Robert Pliska, Sperry Van Ness Property Investment Advisors, Managing Director. I mean, great letter, but you said it all. I mean, this is a win-win situation, Bob, and our elected officials gotta wake up and smell the win-win situation for them too. I mean, politicians right now, whether they're Republican, Democrat, whoever, the president, they all have bad grades as far as I'm concerned in a whole. And if they could focus on this 14,000 government surplus properties, help the American taxpayer, what a win-win for them. They would get all the kudos, but you and I, the taxpayer, we might be able to get a little relief. Go ahead, talk about why you wrote the letter and what your hopes and prayers really on what the government will do.
Well, Doug, it was a letter that we discussed, and I know you were down there in Miami and looked at the properties and so forth. Determined that, just like the property that we had up here in Michigan, which was costing $500,000 a year, yours down there was even more than it was than our property up here.
Yep.
So, as you can see, if we have 14,000 of these properties across the country, having operating costs and security costs and so forth that are costing various government entities substantial amount of dollars, it's something that needs to be addressed and looked at closely, especially, for example, when, as you indicated, when we did the state of Michigan property, the state was in dire straits. They needed dollars, and here's
sounds familiar, right?
Right. You needed money in order to keep things going. Is one way we were able to get this expense off the operating expenses of the state, and in addition to create substantial dollars by the sale of the property, $31.5 million, in addition to provide an opportunity for future jobs and putting the property back into the private sector where you got tax rolls, put it back on the tax rolls, creating a benefit to the community by developing, for example, on this site, one of the developments is a University of Michigan hospital medical site that is definitely a benefit to the community rather than a property that's just sitting there doing nothing.
And hurting the area.
And hurting the area, yeah. Because obviously it deteriorates. It provided security issues. It provided potential liability issues. So it's something that is definitely a benefit to the world and to the United States.
Nothing saying about mowing 414 acres.
In addition to that, trying to keep it up and
keep the kids from the tunnels and all that.
Keep the kids and from the tunnels, which they were playing, their games down there. In addition, costs of potential huge liability because who knows what may happen in those tunnels.
It is crazy. How many jobs do they expect to be at this hospital? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but that's a good point. I'll have to find that information because obviously when you do have I think it's like 100,000 square foot facility,
okay.
So
a lot of jobs.
We have quite a few jobs just in that one facility that will be developed there. So.
Well, you talk about the property in Michigan that was costing $500,000 a year, and that was there for 3 years before we auctioned it, and then the property, the courtroom in Miami that sat there for 5 years and is still sitting, by the way, at a cost of $1.2 million per year to the American taxpayer. And then there's always one I always like to go to, and that's the post office, the annex in Washington, D.C., and I'll read you a quick little article here. One property already drawing attention is the old post office annex in Washington, D.C. The facility loses $6 million a year. Here's the best part. Yet it hasn't been used in 10 years. That's $60 million. Congressman Denham says, Donald Trump and the Waldorf Astoria have expressed interest in buying the annex to use as a commercial venue that creates jobs and actually makes money for the taxpayers. And then another part of the article says the White House Office of Management Budget estimates that the savings from selling all of these vacant buildings would be $15 billion within 3 years. That's a biggie. And again, there's other courtrooms, there's other post office buildings, there's other office warehouses. None of these properties are houses. Okay, this is not Fannie Mae, this is not Freddie Mac. These 14,000 government surplus properties are office buildings, warehouses, tracts of land, properties that have been deemed by the government themselves surplus property. And so why are we not selling them? Why are we not getting taxpayers into these buildings? Because one of the things is, if the government says, okay, and the state of Michigan could have done this. They could have said, okay, we're not going to use it anymore. Does the city of Detroit want it? Does the area need it for nonprofit? When that happens, no one's paying taxes. It's the same thing as the state owning it, and it doesn't bring in money. And maybe we could have done that 10 years ago when our budget was looking good, but we can't do that anymore. We can't give these away. We've got to sell them. And the municipalities who have not been getting any tax base from this could really use the help, and that would help save the area taxpayers, because if there's more taxes coming in, there's less chance of taxes going up. Agreed?
Agreed.
Well, I don't know how we do this, but you made a strong step in writing that letter. That letter went to Congress. I got a word back from Congressman Denham's office that yours and there were a total of 10 letters and all VIP people like yourself writing in and saying similar things about creation of jobs, about the burden that taxpayers have on the property. The realization is it's a win-win for all of us. You really stepped up and did that. And again, Congressman Denham saying, really good stuff. And it is going to be put into the hearing written testimony that is being right now in the government office of printing. They put it all together and then they submit it to Congress. So that's pretty exciting. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time and effort. And you never know, when somebody asks you to write a letter to Washington, how it's going to be used, and are you going to look good? Is it going to hurt you? Is it going to help you? You took the step and said, hey, this needs to be done, and that's real good stuff, and I want to thank you on the air for that, Bob.
Thank you, and thank you for making me aware of the opportunity to do so and getting it to the right channels.
Tell me about Sperry Van Ness, because it's a great company. How many associates? How many offices? Where are you across the country? All that kind of good stuff.
Sperry Van Ness is a national company. We have 150 locations throughout the country with approximately 900 advisors, as we call them. And we basically are heavily involved in anything in commercial and investment real estate, buy, sell, lease, finance, auction, manage. We're heavily getting into the management section also, where many of our offices do have actually a management branch where they can manage properties themselves in addition to the overall brokerage, which provides a full service to a particular investor, owner of a property. So sold billions of dollars of real estate over the years, and we've got through the recession in a very fine fashion, and we continue to go forward.
Well, I'm very proud of your work, sir. I've always kind of liked the fact that we work together. I believe that real estate people and auction firms work together in a great way that benefits the client, whether it's a private sector client, it's the government sector, banking clients, whatever. We do the best job when we work together. Tell us, how can people get a hold of you, Bob?
Okay, my name is Bob Pliska, Pliska. My phone number in Detroit is 248-433-1400. My cell phone is 313-590-1111. Email robert.pliska@SVN, that's Sperry Van Ness, SVN.com. And my social media with LinkedIn, Twitter, and so forth is R Pliska.
You are the man. Thank you for taking the time on this Labor Day weekend, and you have a great time with your friends and your family. Again, I thank you for calling in, and we'll stay in touch.
Thanks, Doug, and thanks for the opportunity again.
You bet. Bye-bye now. All right, that was Bob Pliska. Again, we've worked together before. He is an excellent commercial real estate broker. Let's go for a quick break, and we'll be right back.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
All right, we're back listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio Show, and I want to talk a little bit more about the other people who wrote in and the credibility of these people who wrote in support of selling these 14,000 government surplus properties, in support of the American taxpayer who doesn't need this burden, who doesn't know that they are holding this burden on their shoulders. Stanley Tate, former head of the Resolution Trust Corporation from Miami, Florida, wrote the letter that was in the package. Michael Fay, the chairman and founding partner of Colliers in South Florida, wrote a letter. Rosendo Cavero of Cushman and Wakefield in Miami wrote the letter. Michael Pappas, CEO of Kai's Real Estate, with 1,800 real estate professionals in his firm, wrote the letter of support. Again, Bob wrote the letter. Craig Haskell from the Value Hound Academy, which is an investor group, wrote the letter. Howard Steinholtz, who's the president and principal of the Urban Group, wrote a letter. Gonzalo Herrera from the Kai's Company in the district sales manager in the Jupiter, Florida, Tequester area, wrote the letter. Walter Liff, the president of Action Auctions in Newcastle, New Hampshire, wrote the letter, and I wrote the letter. All of these letters will go into the public record on that Miami congressional hearing of August 6th. They will be attached to the statements of Congressman Micah and Congressman Denham and the GSA guests there and other guests that really testified that day. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, our sponsor is Rowell Auctions. They are a national real estate auction firm that started in 1936. They do online auctions, on-site auctions, and ballroom auctions. They have offices in Florida, New Jersey, California, Georgia, and have alliances with auctioneers and real estate brokers across the country. They do government auctions, bank auctions, bankruptcy auctions, and much more. They have a big auction schedule coming up, and you need to check out their website at www.rowellauctions.com, or you can call them at 800-323-8255. 800-323-8388. That's 800-323-8388. And again, that's Rowell Auctions. I talked about Bob Pliska and I, who's a commercial real estate broker, making money together, helping the client. Again, there's 4 ways that brokers can make money with real estate auctions. That's through registering buyers for an auction. That's by giving auction firms referrals. That's becoming the local auction headquarters that assist an auction firm in selling property in that area because they know the area, they know the marketplace. And the last way that brokers and real estate professionals can make money with real estate auctions is buying at auctions. They know the market, they know the value. People go to auctions, for a bargain. Sometimes they get great bargains, sometimes they get market. It's really the need of the seller to sell and the need of the buyer to buy. And usually a seller wants real high prices, and usually at the auction the buyer wants real low prices, and the job of the auction firm is to gradually get them together so that both will be okay with signing a contract and moving on with their lives. I talked about a great auction schedule for Rowell Auctions. Let me give you just briefly a few of the auctions that are coming up. Number 1, on September 8th, 630 acres in a lodge. It's recreational farmland. That's on September 8th. Also on September 8th, 32 acres in a mobile home development. Also on September 8th, 508 acres recreational and timberland. That's all in Georgia. And then on September 11th, there's 4 prime commercial properties overlooking, Pasquo Tank River. And that's in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. So the first few were from Georgia. This is North Carolina. Then there is a 124 acres in Georgia. That's going to be at the Comfort Inn and Suites in Commerce, Georgia. And then there's going to be, on September 12th, there's going to be 66 acres in Clarksville, Georgia. Then in North Georgia, we've got, in Lawrenceville, Georgia, 85 assets. There's going to be ballroom auction, online bidding available, mini selling at absolute auction. On September 15th, we've got 89 acres of farmland in Florida, in Defuniak Springs, Florida. On September 18th, we have 83 bank foreclosed assets in Georgia. It's going to be held in Tifton, Georgia. Bank ordered auctions. Again, 83 bank foreclosed assets in Georgia. Then we have on September 18th, too, we've got former Flint River Marine in Albany, Georgia. It's a retail store and boat storage. That's September 18th. And on September 20th, we have a bank-ordered absolute auction of 66 assets in North Georgia and Alabama. So I've talked about Georgia properties, Florida properties, North Carolina properties, Alabama properties. I may even have something to tell you about a Massachusetts property coming up next week or so. So very exciting. And again, I don't have enough time to go through every one of these, but on RowellAuctions.com, and that's ROWELL auctions.com. You can find out about these properties. If you want to know how to bid, 800-323-8388. 800-323-8388. And again, RowAuctions.com. They've been around since 1936. Tommy Rowell is the CEO. And again, it's a family-owned firm. Before we kind of send you off on that weekend, I do want you to get involved in the elections. Just the fact that Bob Pliska wrote a letter in support of selling these 14,000 government surplus properties, he's doing something. He's doing something to make our lives better. And that's what this is all about. And so we're going to have to just move out of our comfort zone just a little bit, get more involved in the government process. I urge you to contact your elected official and say, what about these 14,000 government surplus properties? Let's sell them. I do not want to continue paying the holding cost on these properties. It's too much. We've got to stop it. We've got to stop it now. Hope everyone has a great holiday weekend. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time.